to the Weed Out podcast, where we weed out the ghouls and the ghoulish behavior of our local things. And hopefully anybody listening to this can extrapolate how issues in their backyard are the same all the way across the country. This podcast is with Joanna May Booty and myself, Spencer Fox Peterson, and happy to have you here. We are two abolitionists based out of Western Massachusetts, not Central, not the Berkshires, Western Massachusetts, which is nestled in between those places. Very different than Boston, but it's still New England. It's a working class area with working class folks, you know, a lot of universities. So there's lots of cool stuff that happens here, but we're facing the same issues the rest of the country is, you know, resources being spent in the wrong ways, whether it's on over policing and genderfying to who knows, like that's the whole point of the podcast, I guess, right? So we're gonna dive into things that we experience as local abolitionists, but also hopefully we hit some nerves on some other people throughout the country and you know, presumably the imperialized world, you know, like I don't think our problems are probably even that much different than people in Canada or Mexico or wherever, you know. So just a little bit about myself, I guess. I'm Spencer. I'm a butcher by trade. I'm a food sourcer currently for my primary income. I butcher, I process meat, I lift things up, I put them down. You know, I've been around the block a long time. I've been doing this industry, whether as a line cook or a front of house person or a butcher or a fishmonger, for getting close to 20 years now. I'm only 36, so it started when I was 17, 18. And that's where Joanna and I have a lot in common. We're both former food service people. And I'll let Joanna introduce herself and talk a little bit about her experiences. But, you know, a big thing for me is I'm a kid that grew up south of Boston near Quincy. I had some experiences that would you consider privileged. I've had other things that you consider pretty white trash. My education, I was fortunate enough to get an education. And I think that's something that is really important. And I hope I can share some of the things I've learned with my communications degree from UMass with everybody here about media literacy and how things are all connected. But the real reason we're here is that working class people need a voice. So we're here for that. And we'll probably bring you interviews with local people that aren't, you know, Instagram influencers. They are farmers or they're laborers of some kind, refrigeration repairmen, people that work on cars. You know, we have all those jobs here and those people have a lot to say. We all have our opinion and our point of view and it's valuable. So I could keep rambling. So I'll let Joanna take over and introduce herself and a little bit of a background. Take it away, Joanna.
Hi, everyone. I'm Joanna. Spencer did say my name, but I always like to say my full name. It's Joanna May Booty. My grandma was May, so I always include that. She was an angel. I actually grew up here in Western Mass, and I consider the Berkshires Western Mass, actually, but there could be a whole debate on that with everyone throughout the state, obviously. I have lived in a number of places, actually, in the 413. Shout out to the whole area. I grew up in the largest city in the Berkshires, Pittsfield, but I now live in a town in Franklin County with about 8,000 people. It's called Montague. I agree with Spencer. Education was a blessing. It was something that got me out of a situation that I did not want to be in. And so you'll hear those experiences. They're often mixed and absurd. And so I'm just throwing that out there in case I reference evangelicals or fundamentalist Christians or white Christian nationalists, like I know in the future. And if I do, it's because I do know. I have a master's degree in clinical psychology from the New School in New York City. And I spent 3 years living between Manhattan and Brooklyn while completing that degree. In contrast, I went to undergraduate school in the tiny town of North Adams in northern Berkshire County here in Western Mass. And then in the spring of 2019, I finished a postgraduate certificate in higher education administration from the University of Massachusetts, Amherst. I currently work in higher education. So I know Spencer talked about how I worked in the food industry, and I did for a long time, but I currently am an institutional review board analyst. In that role, I kind of look at all things human subjects research and review that with a number of individuals. In the past, I've taught research methods labs, and ethics in research. Before leaving for grad school, I was a domestic violence counselor. I even spent 3 years working with children 3 and under, focusing on development and behavior after grad school. And so along the way, though, and throughout all of these things, there were summers, there were summer breaks, there was before college, there was after grad school. I was either a server, a bartender, and a restaurant manager, depending. And I have really strong connections to that. And as much as I really do enjoy my current role and have had great experiences in all my roles that I've had in the past, it's really hard for me to stay away from the hospitality food service industry. Again, I go back to that. And I brought up connections before. I hope to always be connected to the community in one way or another. And at one time, that industry was for me like the only way to do that. And you really could be connected to people in your local community. You were serving them dinner, making them drinks, or helping other staff members to be able to do that. And giving someone a great night when they go out is a really nice thing. And I think overall, my desire initially just with education was wondering and learning about what makes people tick. And so that's really where my initial education focus landed. But I'm just excited to get to share my unique perspectives too on things, as well as learn along the way by having such open discussions, especially with someone I enjoy talking with so much, who is a wonderful friend and who shares my values and my passions in all these areas. And this is about you, Spence.
Thank you.
Identify, you're welcome. I love talking with you about things. I think identifying as an abolitionist and focusing on that here in my daily life and just basing, I don't know, a lot of my goals around reduction of harm overall is something that I'm excited to talk about. And with this podcast, I feel like it's a way to share that and about that with the community. And like you mentioned, Spence, like uplifting the voices of others. So we do have so many other people in the community doing great work. And those are things we can dive into and talk about and have real discussions. And it may not be easy, I never will promise anyone the discussions we are having are going to be easy to have, but I hope that we're always leaving with something to consider and reflect on just as we make our way through this life. It's not always easy. So I think that's all I have to say too, because otherwise I will ramble.
Right. Well, it's important to remind everybody, whoever gives us a chance, that we're not weighted one way or another when it comes to intellectualism or education. We think it's very important, but we also have to remember that it's not something that's afforded to everybody. So, we need to avoid, well, we work and will try to avoid being classist of any kind. We're not those kind of people that dunk on you for misplacing a comma on a tweet, or or a grammatical error, use the wrong version of they, there, that, there. And but we will come after you if you are purposely mispronouncing somebody, so
Absolutely.
there's certain things like that's a waste of time. That's a, the far as correcting people's grammar and shit, and the words they decide to use. All words are valid, all words have meaning. So if you're getting upset about cursing, this is the wrong fucking place for you. But that doesn't mean we're Joe Rogan, some kid that just learned how to say fuck for the first time. Like, if somebody's dropping an F-bomb where I'm from, it usually it's not a crutch word. It means something. It's an affirmation of shit's good or bad, depends on the tone. And it's not a bad thing. This is language. Language is ever changing. And one of the ways that we are penned in our, and as far as being in our class or our hierarchy in this society we live in, is through the means of saying things quote unquote properly, dressing quote unquote properly. Certain hairstyles aren't acceptable to the professionalism. It's like, you can say something like, just circling back, aka you're a fucking asshole. Just say you're a fucking asshole. Like, it means the same thing. Stop telling me that one's more professional than the other. You're saying, like, it's the same fucking thing. And it ends up being one of those things. And again, I'm rambling on this point, but we're not going to do that here. We're going to still use all the words available to us, from whatever you may consider crass to, we're not going to shut people out and only talking big words and theory. I'm not personally not a communist. I don't like a social. I don't I'm not married to one solution. I'm all
Yeah,
about right now harm, not even reduction. That's an insult. Stop the harm. It's like,
fair.
we're going to stop the harm. That's why I get so hype about cops. It's like, it's an actual physical threat. The other stuff is systemic and buried and baked in. You can't root it out, but you can push the boot off your neck, the literal boot. And if we can help our, use a communist term, our comrades, whatever they are, poor, different, abused, not abused, drug addicted, doesn't matter. Like, it's not cool that the state can get away with being violent. I don't pay for that shit. And, a lot of people may see you and I as conservatives in a lot of ways, which is really disappointing. We can't get along with some of these MAGA people because we do have a lot of the same principles. We think mainstream media is broken. It doesn't actually, it's lying to us. Now, granted, we could talk about their cognitive dissonance and all that stuff all day,
Right.
but we're not going to talk about what's wrong with these people, or try not to, because they're just people that are being abused. And we swing up here. We're not gonna.
Never gonna punch down. We're
No,
not
we
gonna try to.
and if we do, call us out. And it is what it is. But like, if you got a problem, and say you're for example, our mayor here, Josh Garcia, he's a fine guy. Like,
And that's in Holyoke, Mass.
that's in Holyoke, Mass, where I live, and he's a good guy, right? But like, just because you're not a white guy doesn't mean you're above criticism. Does that mean but that doesn't mean we center our criticism around where you came from. It's like, no, that policy fucking sucked, dude. Period. That policy sucks. And we take we still need to engage with people. And I'm using an example of like where people can get defensive and say you can't talk to him that way because he's a mayor. It's like, no, that motherfucker, yeah, he may be a Puerto Rican mayor. I'm not attacking him over his race. I'm attacking him over his position of power. So that's the thing. Let's not get confused over what's appropriate and what's inappropriate. People like Marjorie Taylor Greene on the national stage love to claim that they're being picked on because they're a woman, but then are awful fucking human beings. It's like, you don't get to do that here, in this little bubble that Joanne and I control. So if you're into that, and we're both, I would say we're pretty aggro. We can get pretty hot, but we want anybody that listens to this to know that it's about, we care. When you're somebody that's been through traumatic stuff, everybody's trauma is different. And living in this capitalist society, especially where it's gotten to in our lifetime since the 80s, it's completely reasonable to fucking, I think everybody baseline is got PTSD, like, just because of how the economy grinds people to dust. And you're only as good as your productivity. And we're all isolated because the jobs are corporate and yada, yada, yada. But here we're trying to create community. We all ultimately, even if somebody makes, maybe Joanna will disagree with me here, and I'm not a fan of people making $150,000, not because they have $150,000. It's very rare once you start making more than that kind of money that you not become a douchebag. But give them a chance, and they're they're 3 false steps away from being homeless, and we have to fucking remember that. And
We all have to remember that.
but we also have to remember there's people that have already fallen down those steps. That's
Well,
first. The people that are already hurting are like, we need to triage that.
yeah, I agree with you.
So
And I
hopefully
completely agree
everything we say here will be punching up at the people,
Yes.
hurting the people that need the help right now, or yesterday, or 20 years ago, even. Like, these cycles are not one-day cycles. These are generational cycles of problems.
Correct. And I really appreciate your point on education and language, because I really do talk about my background and my education as a first generation college graduate. My mom has an associate's degree, but my father only finished 8th grade. So I'm proud of the ability that I had to go to college, to be able to finish those degrees, to have had the experiences I've had, to hear other people's lived experiences. Education is not the only way, like formal education is not the only way to have knowledge or to be educated. So I
mean, some
don't.
of the smartest people I've ever known personally, face to face, because I've been a cook. I may have a bachelor's degree, but being a cook and a butcher, I've worked with more ex-felons than not.
Yeah.
like I was an odd man out in a lot of ways that I hadn't spent any time in jail. Like that was a weird thing, and that was I always in hindsight I chalk it up to privilege. It's like, oh, because I was able to avoid some of this shit. I mean, I was smoking weed, doing all the things that people go to jail for, you know.
Right.
Not I'm not like a criminal mastermind here, but you know, crime. What is crime? You know, I'm sure we'll have many discussions on what crime is and what laws are.
Absolutely.
You know, and we want the people that, you know, I guess what our goal here is, you and I both are pretty intense people, and
yeah,
people want to hear what we have to say in our personal life, but sometimes they're not in the headspace to fucking hear it. And that can cause some problems.
Really
and I want people to, I want to compartmentalize my ramblings, because I think we have some good thoughts coming from a point of view that isn't recognized in the media, working class people with some skills because of our privilege. And the reality is, you know, we're still working our day jobs. We're still doing the thing. And we have we're down touch. And, you know, we want to get the news out about what's happening in our backyards: Holyoke, Mass, Montague, Northampton, Mass, Boston, you know, the state police. We want, or whatever, state politician, you know, the prison programs and all the stupid things they're doing with the phone call programs that are ripping off these inmates. We want to cover all that in a way that is real, and you can be like, oh, these people are doing records requests or are asking questions and talking to also people on the ground. You know, like I go into restaurants all the time. I'm a food person, so like I hear people's gripes because we got lots of them, man. We're all the working people. And when I say working, I don't mean just, you know, working is anybody that has to live month to month, day to day, fuck, even year to year. I'll count year to year as a working person, right? Like, and we're not here to judge people how they spend their money and spend their time. If that brings them joy, okay.
Yeah, and if you're not hurting anybody else, really, is my
of
thing,
course, yeah.
You know?
If we're talking about grifters and con men, I mean, let's start with the big kahuna first, you know, DJT, Donald Trump. Hopefully we don't spend much time talking about that idiot, but let's be real. I mean, he's a symptom of a bigger problem.
Oh, yeah.
And Joanna and I talk about this all the time. And, you know, a lot of white people haven't come to this conclusion, and we can only speak for white people, you know, working class white people. So we're going to speak to that truth of power. A lot of them are in fucking denial.
Especially blonde white ladies. And y'all can come for me. This isn't even a hair dye, ladies. See, that will make you even madder.
And, you know, the reality,
calm down.
The reality is I'm out in the road. I drive a truck, and people say shit to me because I look like I could be a MAGA. So like, people get brazen around other white guys. White guys get worse around other white guys because they think nobody's going to check. And they haven't. Historically, it's been, you know, in our culture, it's impolite to talk about our wages. It's impolite to talk about politics. Right. It's impolite to correct somebody. They can start the fight, but you can't finish it. It's against the rules.
Well, and especially for us
polite ladies. Society rules. That's why civility is bullshit. It's like, oh, you get to throw the jab and then run away. And like, now's not the time for politics. It's like after every gun shooting. Thoughts and prayers. No, we can't politicize this.
Right.
That's disrespectful to the victims. And it's like,
they're gone.
What's disrespectful to the victims? Not fucking addressing this.
Right. They're gone. Like, we need to do something. Like,
and you know, me and you don't have a total problem with guns here. Like, we can also have we can have a nuanced conversation about guns. We're not your typical neolibs over here going to be like, no guns.
We're not neoliberals. You know what I mean? Like, we're not. So,
and the reality is, even if you wanted to be a totalitarian and snap the finger and all the guns are, dude, that won't that can't
it won't happen.
You'll cause it will, like, it just, so you have, unfortunately, this is one of those things guns. We got to find them. Yeah, dude, I mean, what is it, 400 million supposedly minimum
registered, at least, then, so
that we know of.
Exactly.
And again, it's like one of those things, but you can't have brass knuckles.
Yeah.
What the fuck? Like, it's like the rules are so stupid. It's like you can modify your, you know, assault rifle, or no, you can modify your semi-automatic into an assault rifle with different tech that you can 3D print. You don't even need to go to a store.
Right. But isn't that a ghost gun though? Then
maybe that's the thing. It's like, I won't. We can research more. We should research more before we talk about this topic.
But that's okay.
You know,
that's fair.
as an American, unfortunately, whether you want education on guns or not.
You
I mean,
have to kind of,
I at least know the difference between a 22, a 9 millimeter, and an assault style rifle. You know, like I know this style. Like I'm like, oh, that's a 22. I can like look at the
well,
bullet
and
and be
if
like, well, that
nothing
makes sense
else,
to me. But like,
and that
that's
if
fucking weird, kind of, if you think about it. I'm not even into guns, and I can be like,
but
oh yeah,
isn't that also like a, and I'm not saying that there is a correlate with like video games and shootings, but our culture, even just entertainment wise, like a lot of video games
yeah.
have
Every
like,
movie you see
yeah,
somebody
and movies
strapping up.
tell you what kind of gun usually, like they usually will
Yeah,
say it. So like, I mean, even
like
I
that's
can
a
identify
punchline
a
in
few things.
yeah, what is it? It's either Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels or Snatch. The guy's like, that's Desert Eagle .50.
That's what I'm saying. So even I can identify like weird things because it's like part of our like Wild West popular culture in a way. Like in some ways that like Wild Western feel,
And that's a lie.
I know, but
The
it,
rules are actually
I,
stricter in the
oh,
Wild West towns.
I know, but I'm just saying like
No, we're all
people hold
propaganda.
on, yes, people hold on to that feeling, that like weird, I can't even say what it is exactly, but people get really attached to that America. There's a very America gun thing. It's just like really part of our culture, and yeah, I don't know what to do other than talk about it more, and how thoughts and prayers definitely will not be the answer.
But you could say that same thing with it's the same. It's weird to even say this, but it's like the same thing as our healthcare system.
Oh yeah, like
You know what I mean?
thoughts
It's
and
like, oh,
prayers
thoughts
are
and
not
prayers,
gonna get us
COVID,
out of
thoughts and prayers,
of
motherfucker.
shit. Like we're that's
Hey,
supposed.
nurses, you know, we're gonna
I'll
burn
give
you
you
out,
some
then be like, and then we'll give
thoughts
you
and
a
prayers.
pizza party.
Yeah.
You
Well,
know,
how
it's
will
the
you
same
pay my
fucking
rent?
shit.
Thoughts and prayers. Like I don't know. That's just crazy to me. So yeah,
Yeah,
I mean,
well, that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna weed through this. That's why we
yeah.
call it
So
the weed
there's
out.
there's a lot of
And
bullshit to
obviously,
weed
if you
out.
want to make your marijuana reference, that's fine because we do smoke
We
weed.
smoke a lot of weed.
It's you know, well, I could probably do a whole series on how that happened, why that happened, and why it continues to this day. You know, Joanna told you a little bit about her background. My background is similar but very different. Obviously, I'm raised a just under 6 foot, 180-pound white guy. Like literally, the world is built for me, baby. Tables, keyboards, like everything is built for my hands, my feet. Shelves are like the heights for me. You know what I mean?
That's annoying.
I don't have to like crouch. I don't also have to like get a step stool for most things. So like I like telling people that because it's like there is a reality of like my shit's fucked up, but it's not really that bad, you know. As far as if you put yourself in other people's positions and roles in society, if anything, the things that are harder in my life than they have to be, they're probably my stubbornness, you know, like I could have been a good boy and like cut my hair the way the prep school demanded, but no, I was an asshole about it. And you know, they would say dress code, you know, you gotta wear a belt with your dress code. And I would wait till 8:25 when the first bell would ring. And I would already been on campus for X amount, 15 minutes, an hour, it wouldn't matter. I'd be doing homework. Dress code said nowhere in there about a specific time or once you were on campus. I just I'll put my dress code, I'll finish the dress code, you know, because pussy. And then they changed the fucking rules because people like me and others were, you know, like, you didn't specify. How many times did I get thrown into punishment at school? And like I went to a Catholic all boys Jesuit prep school. So it's old school, baby. I mean, yeah, they weren't hitting us with rulers anymore, but you know, they remissed for the old days of when they could do that shit.
I
And
mean, you should tell them which school because that could be a
oh
whole
yeah, oh
episode
yeah,
too.
maybe people will know. I mean, if
That'll
you
be
followed the Catholic drama over the last 20-25 years, my high school is Boston College High School in Dorchester, Mass. I was It's a blessing and a curse to have gone to that high school. It's some really famous people have gone there, including Whitey Bulger's older brother, who covered up for his crimes. So BC High is like this really, you know, kind of elite uh, ground. There's a lot of legacy kids there. When I was going there, it was still relatively affordable. I actually lived really close, so that's one of the reasons we could do it. And my parents, you know, valued education and discipline, so the school was big on both. And the cool thing about the Jesuits was, you know, you learn about the rest of the world because the Jesuits are the first people in for the Catholics. They are the Marines. they go in and they colonize. Let's just put it straight. Like, so they learn about other religions.
Oh, so that's like our missionaries. We call
Yes, they learn about the other religions. It's required they know multiple languages. It's required that they get a master's in education
okay.
and have at least two specialities. So like psychology and world religions, or psychology and Buddhism, or psychology and physics, or whatever, an MD. Like, they really encourage that. So these dudes are cool in a way because they teach you how to manipulate the world. They teach you that you don't win in life. They didn't say this explicitly. This is what I realized because the guys that were really quote unquote successful that I graduated with, they're scummy kind of guys. Like, they skirt the rules, they break the rules, they push the rules, challenge it. You're not going to come after me, and the shit they're doing, they're not going to go to jail for it, and then down to the microaggressions of being kind of rapey. It's one of the side problems with going to an all boys school. It's like, you don't even learn how to, it's not, I know these things happen in co-ed schools, but you're new at the whole intersection, working exchange when you go to college. You're stunted.
Yeah, I always had co-ed stuff, and I went to public school, so that would have been different for sure.
And it's like fetishizes it.
Well, I bet like it must make women like almost like
teachers get hit on
thing.
And
yeah, they do in public school. They do, but I bet it's like even more,
it's worse.
Yeah,
it's
even
worse. I guarantee
that makes
it's worse.
Sense.
Anyway, so like that's where I come from, and the reason you may know this high school, Boston College High School, I'll say it again, not only because some famous people went there, but that's where the whole kit and caboodle blew up about the sex scandals, the pedophilia scandals.
Yeah.
And BC High was at the middle of it, and I was a freshman.
That's
a
so
week
heavy.
after 9/11. And that's when I was like, Joanna, she deconstructed, she left it whenever she did. She'll tell you more about it.
I'm still deconstructing though, like we always will be. I just want to put that out there.
Never leaves.
Exactly, honey. I'm just putting it out there for everyone. Like if you're out there and you feel
it's like being a drug addict.
Yeah, exactly, Spencer. Like we're always going to have to fight and deconstruct. It was like programming.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't have a choice to it's not like in Judaism, for example, where when you go to bat mitzvah and you become a man or whatever, an adult. Right. I'm probably butchering their traditions here, but that's at least still kind of a choice. It's not a choice. Like, let's face it. Like, these kids are being told like they have to.
Told, and it's but like it's not the same.
I get circumcised and baptized before I can even sit up on my own.
Yeah.
Like, that's fucked up.
Yeah.
That's fucked up. It's weird. It's fucked up. And my parents weren't even like zealots about it, but they liked the control aspect. They liked the idea of hierarchy. They thought I should learn that. And all it did for me, it worked for one of my sisters. My other one of my sisters just ran away. I mean, she's obviously not run away, but like she just distanced herself 3,000 miles. And myself, I was just like 15-year-old boy finding out they're raping kids, possibly my classmates. It's still ongoing.
It's so heavy.
And
that's why I wanted you to share the name. Thank you.
Yeah. So it's like, I'm grateful I wasn't a victim.
Well, and it's just good that you got out of there without having any.
Oh God, thank God.
Yeah, thank God. Like just.
Yeah, but again,
and I say thank God really like as like a LOL thing. Everyone again, like I don't even know if there's a God. So, and I don't subscribe to another religion.
Hey, now. we're not going to nitpick here. Remember that?
I know, but I'm just letting others know because like we're talking
also,
about
like,
deconstructing, and I'm saying thank God.
Our beef ain't with spirituality and religion. I would say. I would say it's the
not at all.
It's the hierarchical, powerful. It's the class structure. It's the abuse of that class structure. It's the damage that it does. If you believe in a man that had woolen hair in the Middle East, who organized his people against the Roman government, occupying government, and you think he was a good man, and you want to live by his tenets, you get pissed off about, abusive lenders. You get pissed off about, Pharisees and rabbis who were abusing their tithing system. Yeah, that's cool. I'm down with that. Like, roll, your goal is to be peaceful and through love and show people love and compassion. But like, the reality is in America, that's not
it's not religion in America.
That's an identity marker. That's not and they're no different than the Christians that saddled up and went across Europe to kill the Muslims. Like they're no fucking different. We
Yeah,
haven't eradicated that,
no,
unfortunately.
we haven't. And for me, it's the same as I said at the beginning. Like, if you find comfort or joy in something, and it doesn't hurt anyone else, which religions often do, and
Right.
I'm like,
And
then
there are
okay.
Christians I've
There are
known
Christians that,
personally
yeah,
that
same,
that's
that
what it's
aren't.
like. My godmother was, for the most part, I mean, she was a flawed person. I'm sure you could find flaws in her, but she really
And
did try. It was very apparent that she tried to live a Christ-like existence. But she also had the benefit of, when I knew her, she was in her 70s. So she already had the benefit of fucking up, and kind of learned her lessons along the way, I'm sure. Um, and it's not even to get specific, she hurt somebody's feelings. She did this, she did that. She was cold about something. She was too rigid with somebody that probably deserved a little more forgiveness. And then, that damaged their relationship, So, but the point is, that's the Pope has nothing to do with that good stuff.
yeah, that's the thing.
It's like,
And in my church, we don't have a pope. It's kind of, in my opinion, the evangelical like churches in America. Please come for me. You are a
well, I
cult.
think
Like they
I
are a cult.
I
They are
think they're in their
cult.
last throes. I think
I
across
gosh, I hope so.
I
Goodness,
think
goodness, gee, I
truly,
do hope.
well, unless
They
they
are just so
get total
wealthy.
reins of our government and our people.
They do have a very like in
They
my
do.
opinion a good
No, I'm
stronghold
saying,
on
if
like the government in terms of
but the
like the
people are
people they put
leaving.
forward.
People are leaving.
I know people are leaving. I mean,
The Catholic Church is nothing compared to what it was in
I know,
in the
same,
Northeast.
yeah, and I think our church probably the evangelical church is probably shrinking too.
The only people that didn't left in America are no different than Clarence Thomas.
Oh God,
Clarence Thomas, the Supreme Court justice, who's
you're gonna send me on a tangent.
a scary Catholic. He
Scary
terrifies me.
everything. Scary everything.
Joanna talked about this. It's one of our favorite jokes. It's like, it's funny to think about when Joe Biden first got elected senator in the 70s. Just prior to that, the first Catholic president got elected, right? JFK. And that was a big deal because everybody's like, oh, the Pope's going to be blah, blah, blah. And then, people like Joe Biden. Joe Biden's only our second one. But we have 6 Supreme Court justices who are in extreme factions of the Roman Catholic Church.
Yeah, like
So it's even scarier. They're in the they're and like the
we'll
fact
have to
that
do a whole episode on these guys.
Well, and the fact that the evangelicals, who traditionally are enemies of the Catholics,
they like these guys though.
They like these guys.
They uphold the same crazy shit. Like they're just
it's not
the
good.
same. They're on the same trail wavelength of just real weird cult like stuff. And like I said, we'll have to talk about it more in another.
Yeah, I mean, we're fortunate.
Whole podcast. It's really honestly interesting.
Anybody who's listened to us in the Connecticut River Valley, we don't say Pioneer River Valley anymore because it's pretty imperialistic to say. So we say the Connecticut River Valley. That's the best we can do. I wish it was different, but that's the best we can call our home right now. So we call it the Connecticut River Valley because the Connecticut River runs through it. I know churches are a thing here, like they're still here, but it's not. I mean, look at downtown Northampton. There was 5 Catholic churches back in the 90s. I didn't even grow up here. They're just 3 of them are empty.
Well, yeah, and it was the same in the Berkshires. Like more and more Catholic churches closed,
which is also leading to there's all this real estate, and that could be like a homeless shelter,
right? But the church usually wants a lot of money. So in Pittsfield,
well, that's how much the money Catholic Church, they can just fucking let that building rot. They don't. I
know, and I will say in Pittsfield, where I'm from, they did actually let a homeless shelter use the old Catholic high school, St. Joseph's High School, but it was like you said, basically sitting and rotting. So it was like they were doing themselves a favor, letting anyone even utilize it.
I think anytime if we can find where like these churches are, so this is like an example of a call to action Joanna and I could put out in episodes. So there is an IRS form that you can report nonprofits or whatever the tax exempt agencies like the churches are, right? Tax exempt status. You can report them for politics from the pulpit, and they can lose their tax exempt status. So there's churches there's people that are doing it like down in the Georgia, Alabama, Louisiana area where they're taking down these like, grifter pastors. I think Greg Locke actually lost his too.
Oh, that's good to
recently.
know. I mean, Marjorie Taylor Greene was just up on a stage. I don't know what church. I'd have
And I think they were complaining
out
about
to it.
that. Again, we
Yes.
should, spoiler alert, we don't have this confirmed. We're
No,
just shit
I did
talking.
see a
But
clip of her talking though.
I don't know about her, but I do know this tactic has worked. It's gone viral on TikTok.
I like this tactic. I would do it.
I mean, these are things we can definitely organize and call to action. Another thing is like, hey, at least get your money's worth out of the documents department at your local police department, and
Yeah.
pull the inventory of weapons that they have, pull the overtime hours, ask to see the use of force policy.
Well, yeah. I think everyone should just know, like, you could go onto your
Let them
town's
keep them on their
website.
toes that
Yeah.
they should be ready to give it, because they will drag that out if they don't have it, and that's bad because it means they weren't doing it and they're trying to cover their tracks. So if we
Right.
ask them regularly, maybe they'll be a little tighter about it. I'm not saying this is actually going to fix the police, because it's fucking not, but let's at least get our money back. Again, this is where Joanna and I are conservative. It's like, well, you're burning on money.
I agree with all his points. I think if you're someone like you're new to, like, how do I find out about my town's budget? Like, how is the money that I'm being taxed being used? And even if you don't own a home, or you just rent, or you just go to a different, say I'm just in a different town, but I shop a lot there and work there, I'm giving money to that community. I'm a neighbor even. So like, if you just want to know about a town's information, you can go to the website. A good place to start for me is the budget, because that shows like where a town's values are. And most towns, the values are in the police station.
Well, I mean, this is a good time to bring up, and this is for people that aren't here. That don't know this. The United States police and prison systems, the institutions, and this is just their budgets, not the cash they're fucking jacking from people through asset forfeiture and all the added ways they get money. The money spent on the books is the third most expensive military in the world. And number one is our military. So those are considered separate militaries. The Chinese government is the only one spending more than our policing on their defense.
Well, then what was that other, like, isn't it like the NYPD is larger than Ukraine's entire army? As one, like, that was another example. And I will link this on our website, but that was a real
when the war started, what they had invested in their
military,
in their actual budget,
the NYPD.
And we all know they were getting
right, but I'm just
saying their budget, the money that the people had for them.
One town and one city, I know it's a big city, but one city in America had more,
where the richest people live, so they need the police to protect their shit.
And that's what we'll talk about, because when you're going on your town website and you're looking at your budget and you see this, you're like, okay. And you might not even just want to know about, like, for me in my town, sometimes I pull like Board of Health stuff. Like, what if someone's pouring chemicals into a drain, or like, I don't know, there are things you don't need to call the police about. You like call the Board of Health, look at the public records for your town. Like
a place like Holyoke, Massachusetts.
You have a DPW even that like collects.
Oh, they're understaffed and under budget, being sucked elsewhere. Police.
Right, and that we will go back.
Then they can't be competitive when they're looking for a competent director for the DPW. Literally, the people that get rid of the disease out of our street. We can't find the money to do that. It's insane.
Well, teachers,
it's backwards. It's about okay. Then there's that.
And we did actually level fund our police in this town in 2020. We didn't defund. They did act like that we did. We level funded them without a raise for 1 year, and they went kind of apeshit over it. And I just want everyone in the audience to think, like, how many raises have you had? Or do you have a union even that gives you a raise every year? The police do get a raise, it's set. So like, I just think there are things to think about. I think we should all have unions.
Also, can you as part of your job do a civil asset forfeiture?
Right. I can't just take money from
and
a
report whatever
and
report whatever you want.
Right.
So Holyoke, they claim in the last like 4 or 5 years $10 million in civil asset.
Right, and we'll have to do
cash. We're not even talking about cars and shit like that. And,
well, yes,
cash. And it's like, but the cash drugs. Is like, so that's what they're reporting.
Right.
Or that's as good as cash.
I'm going to say drugs, though, where
and cash is hard to trace. So
right. That one's the harder, probably.
And these are people that it's not that your cash is seized in evidence. These are people that just get bagged for like walking down the street And yeah, they have some illicit drug on them, but they also just get all the money in their pocket taken out of their pocket.
Well, yeah.
Which could be a couple $1,000s, because some people roll
yeah.
with a couple $1,000s in their pocket because they buy everything cash. And we can, make your assumptions, but that's on you. If you think like, whoa, they must be doing something legal. Hey, they're doing what they got to do to get by.
Yeah.
And also maybe they're
mind your business.
Yeah, mind your own. There's a million reasons somebody's doing cash.
You have some skeletons you don't want people knowing about.
Oh, so you think it's cool that we're all in the credit system over here? Us normies. You think that's a flex? Like, you're being literally tracked. You couldn't get away with something if you wanted to.
You're punching down.
But that's their bank account. Is my point.
Life.
Regardless.
No, totally. They don't use.
And then we're like, then we call people moochers, and it's like you took their bank account, and they can't get a bank account. Okay, say sex workers, right?
Yeah, same thing.
If somebody stiffs them, there's no recourse.
Unless they have unless they have someone to go get that money.
Back to the gun thing. When people say like, oh, what about black people and guns or gangs and guns? They don't say black people anymore. Which, in all fairness, there are some white gangs out there doing some crazy shit. So, we should count them too. But the reality is these gangs are doing illicit business that we have created a black market for, whether it's knockoff radios to whatever drugs. They have no recourse. So when somebody robs somebody or somebody screws somebody over, they can't go to court.
Yeah, no, it's just hand.
But in big business, in regular business, if somebody screws you over, there's a system in place. We can talk about how that system is good or bad or whatever, but it at least exists. Like, you can go do something about it, and that way you don't need to have gunfire. And when gangs are shooting at each other, both sides usually got guns, and they're both shooting at each other. And yes, people on the bystander get hurt, but these mass shootings are people that don't have guns and are sitting ducks.
So that's what I was gonna say. Like, I actually want
there's no risk it. These mass shooters got there's no risking anything. If anything, at best they're gonna get suicide by cop, which is maybe what they want, or they get Burger King.
And then I don't even want to say his name. That underage young man who went into another state with an assault rifle, and now his initials are KR.
Yeah,
and he doesn't get to be on this podcast really, other than he was exalted on the right.
No, we could talk about the reaction, the exaltation.
If you think you're a Christian and that person's an all right person, you are not a Christian. You actually are going to go to hell if there is. I don't believe there's a hell, but you are there now in your mind. What the hell is wrong?
Well, this is like the civility politics. They get one cheap jab, and then you jab back, and all of a sudden it's about your attitude.
He went to another town with a horrible killing gun
machine,
and just took out people because he didn't like what they were thinking or saying or doing. That's not at all.
Well, the worst part about this all is the fact that he did that. 2 people were down, 3 people were down, 2 people died. And he walked right by the cops, and they waved, and they gave him a thumbs up. And granted, they may not have known he just killed somebody at that time. I'm not saying they knew he was doing that.
Though he looked small and young, such a tiny little person. Who I'm just like the police should have looked at him.
Well, so many things have happened since then. I've already forgotten about him. That's the sick part.
Well,
that's the sick part about all this.
I remember the video of him waving, and the cops giving him the thumb up, and I'm like, he does look like a 18 tops. Why wouldn't they have stopped him and been like, why do you have that large rifle? That's the first thing I would hope. Back in the day when I thought police kept me safe, that's what I'd hope they'd be doing. That little one, what's right there? What are you doing with that big gun, bud? At least they don't even ask. They just are like, yep, keep going. And then he ends up killing people. It's what in the fuck?
Yeah, we're not going to live with any illusions on this show about the types of people that are recruited to being police.
No, there's data. We will bring up data.
Google 40% of cops.
And we will continually share data here and on the website. When we post our podcast, we will share links to things. We are not just making up numbers. If we get a number wrong when we're talking, we're going to post everything. We're not making up things off the top of our heads. So
why we get so hackled up about this, because we actually in Holyoke, Mass, the communications director of the Holyoke Police Department posted a photo of about 2 years ago now, or maybe a year and a half ago now, or is it 1 year ago this month?
I'm not sure, and we don't know for sure who posted it because no one's ever told us.
I do believe it was Captain Moriarty, because I asked when I called who would have posted this, and they pretty affirmatively.
And that was an upsetting post though. That was on Instagram, everyone. So that was
it's since taken down.
Post. It was removed.
and for good reason, because
Multiple people called the offices. Spencer got like, a lot of people saw it. Spencer was very upset. I was very upset. It was like, I just want to give people context too. Like, it was something I think anyone could easily become upset about because it's a child as a prop.
right. So there was a child that was playing around with in the front seat of a cop car.
Yeah, it
It
looks
looked
cute
like a
at
ride
first,
along, right?
exactly.
It looks cute at first, and it's not her face; it's her backside.
Right.
Which I'll give them credit for. They didn't show her face,
Right.
but the reason she was in the front of the seat of the cop car was because her parents. She was with her parents, and they were unconscious, non-respondent, whatever. We won't presume, but maybe drugs, probably drugs in this scenario. But they were non-responsive. They were getting medical attention. So the officer there, a woman, mind you, was like credited for like taking care of this young girl
Which
in
they
the
should
hardest
do,
day of
and
her life,
that's
which is
great.
that's
Thank
great.
you
But
for
to
doing that.
weaponize this
Oh, yeah.
person and use as a prop this kid who her parents are unconscious and not with her, this kid's life is about to be turned upside fucking down because now the state's involved. I have family members that have come to our family. My sister's adopted kids that were in DCF, and it's a fucked up system. It's fucked up. How they even adopt kids is messed up. All of it's messed up. Regardless, there can be happy outcomes. Most of the time it's not. And this kid is about to start down a path at 3 years old or however old she is.
They were young, yeah.
And using her as a prop is a reason to like why the cops are no, do your fucking job, shut the fuck up. Don't use victims of circumstance as a reason you need 40% or whatever it is of Holyoke's broke ass budget where we're struggling to get by. And all this stuff.
You're right. That really did really force our hand at all, like in terms of direct action on not just Holyoke, but like any police station within.
And we've actually hassled the Holyoke Police Department enough through direct comments and posts on the social media sites, and then also back channels and records requests. And because basically we're just sniffing around, and they probably weren't even doing anything nefarious.
It's our legal right to look up.
And they may not have been doing anything nefarious, but we got what we wanted. They disabled that Instagram account ultimately about 9 months later, because they realized the benefit just wasn't there. And we made it so that benefit wasn't there, because all we're going to do is like, oh, this is another reason we can question you.
Well, yeah, because
this is like, you're not thinking this shit through. You're clearly not. You are a cop first, not a social media, not a PR person. And also, should the police have a PR arm? Probably not.
Right.
Like that's the media should be asking like, and I
know they have
propaganda arm. Like,
I know they have to talk to the
public, but they have press releases.
I know, I agree.
They can do press releases. Listen, they could call up WWLP or Mass Live and be on their live stream or their record a video anytime they want. People love cop shit.
No, I know.
Look at our whole life. Everything's Law and Order, SVU, Paw Patrol. At all ages, even when you're trying to deconstruct and actively watching shit that you don't like, it's about cops. Everything's about cops, even when you're me. Because you're like, how can we live in a place without cops? So I seek out media that hates cops, or not hates, but is trying to imagine places without cops. Even think about Star Wars. Isn't that the whole fucking point? They're trying to find the balance on what, like in the newer stuff, they're like, show the Republic as the new cops, like in Mandalorian, right? So it's like they're showing the struggles of like the guys that you just overthrew a government are now cops. Ineffective, wasteful, dumb. And like Mandalorian in the Book of Boba Fett, like gets his new ship and does a tricky move and blows away from him, and the two fucking X-Wing pilots are like, do you want to go back and do paperwork about a runner? And they both say no. And it's like, that sums it up right there. It's like, it doesn't matter. That job is stupid. It's a waste of time. People are going to do what they're going to do. And are we really going to risk a civic employee, a police officer? Are we really going to risk their life to go chase after somebody? I mean, that's a real question. I think there's a workers' rights element here. Like, why are we creating jobs or forming jobs around a violent response that, yes, could hurt the citizen? And first and foremost, that's the most important thing, because the government shouldn't hurt its citizens. But we are also potentially hurting that employee.
Right.
you know. So that's why, like, you know, we shouldn't be letting them work tons of overtime. Not only is it a money suck, it's
Well,
like
yeah, it's
you're
bad
only
for you.
every other industry is like, yo, we actually have come to the conclusion we actually lose productivity.
Yeah, you do better with like
You
time
lose
off.
productivity the more you work,
Yeah,
and
you
you
get
lose, and
weird.
bad decisions get made because you're burnt out.
Exactly.
You're too involved, and
It's
so like,
all just it's just so
and
many
these
things.
guys aren't even working their full shifts. Like in
That's well,
Holyoke,
yeah.
in
So they have
Holyoke,
special
you
clauses
spend
in.
you spend what was it? You spend 5 minutes over the time, you get 4 hours.
Yeah, it was almost like if you're on call, like, and you show up and say
You
you
get
only worked like 5 minutes in the hour, like you still get paid for four no matter what. It's
no
like there's
matter what.
different
Which,
clauses in the union. I get it.
hey,
That's cool. I just wish we all got that. You know what I
as an
mean?
employee, would love that deal.
Right. It's a good deal.
But are you actually like, you know, in
And it's a
my job,
lot of
there's,
money if it's overtime. You know what I'm saying? Like
well,
it's a
yeah,
lot.
that too.
That's the other thing.
But like, think about my job. If they call me in for overtime, I'm a
Yeah.
fit. I'm there's like there's a dollar amount attached to what
Right.
I just did.
Well, there's
Like,
two.
so they will make their decision on if they want me to work extra for whatever reason. Like, dude, we're gonna be slammed Monday. Can you? I know you normally don't work. We're just, the route's gonna be spread out, and we just need to get another truck on the road. And they might do the math and be like, okay, we're not gonna like make a ton of money, but they can literally quantify it. You can't quantify what these guys are doing,
That's the thing.
you know, other than how many units do they get to feed the for-profit prison industrial complex, you know?
Well, and like that's why in everyone's town, like you kind of have to think, like when you look at the budgets in small towns, like any town in America, even like NYPD, like what are we getting for the tax input? Like when I put money, well, I can't choose to put that tax input in. So like, what am I getting out of it? And oftentimes, like, you know, we have parks, we have these libraries, we have all these cool, awesome things, fire, fire safety, roads. And then when you get to the police, again, like I was someone who thought like these people are here to protect us at one time in my life. Like, what examples do we have where that's the case? And I mean, we can talk about it in another episode because it warrants it. But like the Supreme Court's already said, like that isn't even what they need. That they don't have to do that.
Oh, multiple times it's
Yeah,
been
they don't
reaffirmed.
have to. They don't have to. They don't have to
They've
protect
also
us.
they've also weakened the Fourth Amendment since the Civil Rights Act.
Right. And
So,
you just,
you
there's
know,
so many things that are just actually scary. And then I remember my mom warning me, like probably when I was like 16 and I started driving on my own, that if I was ever like going to get pulled over by a police officer late at night, that I should drive to the closest police station, not stop on my own. And she never really told me why. And then I once saw a statistic where like in 35 states, in it might be 35, 36, again, I'll share it on our website, like it's legal to like have it's rape, but they call it like sex with like a person who is under arrest or something like that, even if you don't consent. And so I'm assuming my mother just thought it was probably pretty sketchy for me to be alone at night, even with the cops. So it's interesting,
and
looking
it's
back
also
and just thinking about
interesting
that. And it's gross.
seeing
It's horrifying that that's
seeing
like
people like,
fucking legal.
it's also interesting seeing people like your mom and my mom. My mom, you know, God love her. She's a good person. She's just crazy as sin, and so am I. But
I was gonna say, who isn't?
yeah, I mean, she's just got undiagnosed stuff,
I
and
know. We just talked about how like after the
right,
pandemic, especially, we're all a little
yeah,
off.
no, we're all a little off, yeah. So, anyways, she'll say the same thing to my sisters and to me,
Well, for
but then
safety,
weirdly, if you question the system otherwise,
she
it's like
defends
those are
it.
the same cops, like those are the
Right.
same dudes, dude. Like the same dudes you're kind of sketched out by, because my mom just doesn't trust men, and for a lot of reasons, that's good.
It's fair.
Like,
Yeah, no,
I
she's
mean,
not wrong, but
she was a visiting nurse, like, dude, she was going into old men's houses, and even as an
right.
old man who she could handle,
It's still kind of, it's still
it's
not
like,
comfortable.
dude,
It's like, no,
you
thank
know,
you. I'm here to help
yeah,
you.
yeah,
Not
I'm your
not to
nurse.
be
Yeah,
assaulted.
I'm not here to tug you, you
Yeah,
know.
I do not want to be assaulted today. And I
And
just
we're
think
sex positive here. I just want
we
everybody to know we're
are.
sex positive, but
Yeah,
yeah, not
but not
coerced
not there's no
sex.
like no if you can't consent, that's rape.
I wonder how many people we've
Offended.
yeah, I mean, just remember, guys, like, we didn't come to these conclusions right now. These are things that we have written about and thought about and argued, and, you know,
And we're still learning. Like
and we're still learning.
I said addicts earlier, and like that I don't like that term. The more I think about like a substance use is not something I want to be a judge.
I just see that as
I
a
don't want
health
to.
issue.
I do too, and I don't even know. I
Somebody
don't look
struggling with
at
a
it
health
as
issue.
a judgment or anything like that. People close to me in my life that have had issues with that. I've used substances myself. I mean, I smoke marijuana, and I just think, and I don't consider that a problem at all, but I think it's been
I,
demonized by our society. And I know there are people out there that consider it a gateway drug. So,
as my mother would say, "Are you smoking the grass?"
yeah, exactly.
Yes,
The
mom.
wacky weed, lady.
Do you know
Karen?
how I haven't burned down this wedding reception yet? Uh,
Exactly.
it's not the alcohol. I can promise you that.
Well,
The
yeah, and
alcohol will cause me to burn the
alcohol
place.
can be, bad. That's another one out there where, alcohol is legal and people don't demonize it. It's socially acceptable. And if you don't drink, you're weird.
Or, and then the worst part, the cardinal sin, you get a couple DUIs because you have a drinking problem and you're like this
And your life
pariah.
is
And all of a sudden, alcohol is the problem. And it's not the
Well,
alcohol, it's you. It's your
it's
fault.
you.
You're the problem. You couldn't control yourself. You ruined your life. Now you can't have a job. You can't have an identity. You got to pay whatever. You got to go to these dehumanizing classes,
and it's like that for like,
they treat you like an idiot.
yeah, for like any drug issue. I mean, like unless you
And
can
for the
afford
record,
really
not
expensive rehab, it's like
Joanna
that.
or I, for the record, have never been accused nor found guilty of a DUI. We just happen to know a lot of fucking people that have all different kinds of people.
Yeah.
And it's really, there's a whole episode, or we could talk about how that's a racket for the cops. They're using a legitimate problem, a public safety issue,
right?
A legitimate issue for bystanders and people doing it alike, and it's a cash cow for them, and it's really scary because they get a cut into the later on too, when you have to put the little machine in.
Like the DUI or the
there's
breathalyzer.
and the court system's making a killing too.
Ton of money.
They're making so much money,
and that's what keeps people down, or like in the systems too after it happens. And like you said, it's
and most of these people are like,
it's a problem.
They drive to work because we don't have public transportation.
I mean, think about, in our society, yeah, it's just
so even if you want to take public transportation and be responsible, you can't.
It's just sad. But yeah, so I'm not judging anyone when
it's the centipede eating its own ass.
It is. But I just want to put that out there. Like, I'm not trying to throw judgment with words. So if I say something that does offend someone, then it's a word that, like, I would want someone to let me know. Actually, I am still learning.
Yeah, and
so although we've come to these conclusions,
but that doesn't necessarily,
a lot of learning, I'm still learning.
I also want to put it out there, in general, with anybody, whether it's face to face or through this medium or any medium online, whatever. You can feel the need to correct me. I'll consider it. But if it's something that I think you're just being an asshole about, I'm also not going to let that go. Joanna might, I won't. So
yeah, I might, but I'm more polite. And that's fucking part that sucks. If I let it go,
because here in my world, there is no civility politics. So I'll hear you out. Everybody gets a chance. It's like when I meet somebody at a cocktail party, I'm not going in and be like, that guy looks like a douchebag.
Yeah, no, same.
That's even if they do, like, even if they look like a cop, even if they look like a cop.
You're gonna see if they talk like one. You're gonna make sure.
Oh, I'm gonna see. No, it's a red flag. What do you do for a living?
I know,
red
but
flag.
It's hard.
That's everybody. I know.
Hard, though,
I'm kidding.
Like,
hey guys, I'm just trying to radicalize.
I'm
just trying to radicalize the audience.
Yeah. Small talk's so hard.
Or actually, the red flag is always when people talk about their kids like they're trophies.
Oh yeah, or a blue flags matter T-shirt is a major red flag.
Oh well, yeah. I'm not even gonna. I mean, I guess.
I'm sorry. I've seen one. I saw one today.
I see them all the time. I see them all the time.
Wow. Okay.
And we don't even really. In all fair, we see lots of that shit, and we do not live in a super conservative area.
No, like people think it's so
it's
liberal
at least
here.
It's neolib. Yeah. It's neolib at but most conservative it gets.
Very interesting.
I think it's they feel cornered. I think the people that are loud and proud MAGA, I think they feel cornered. So
I agree.
Then there are they puff their chest,
Right, and then there are actual we'll have to do a whole episode even on hate groups, because there are hate groups in this area, even the KKK,
and we're gonna look back on MAGA like we look back on Nazi. Like it's no longer going to be the insult like, hey, you're kind of being a Nazi about it. It's like, no, you're being kind of MAGA about this. Like in 20 years when fascism cannot prevail. It eats itself. It needs an out group, and eventually they run out of out groups,
Right.
or they kill everybody. So let's hope they don't do that. But the reality is, the more brutal you get, the more brutal the resistance will get. It's just the way it goes. And that's a really shitty outlook. I hate that outlook, but that's the silver lining, is they can only get so far before we really fight back.
Well, and like, I mean, I think there are towns in America, places, and that's what we're going to talk about too. Like the good news. There's so much good news out there. Like,
Oh yeah, let's talk about Somerville and Greenfield, Massachusetts,
there you
cutting
go.
down their police
That's
budget
what I'm
because
saying.
they needed accountability. They burned a bunch of money for really stupid reasons. Let's just
That's
put
what
it
I'm
that
saying.
way.
I
You
mean,
can
and
Google
even
it.
like, even just a level funding of your town's budget is not
Just
it's
even getting counselors elected that will ask questions, that
right
will
about the
get
budget.
the chief in front of the council and ask them budget
So there's
questions.
and there are so many wins like that. The Greenfield,
Tons.
Somerville, that's a great example, and that's just in Massachusetts. In Pittsfield, they're trying. They're
What's that?
doing.
What was it? Denver that has the alternative response team.
Yeah, but they're starting one in Northampton and Amherst, Mass. Amherst, Mass is
What's Amherst called? Is that core as well?
yes, Amherst is core as well. It's a response.
What is it?
It's citizens who are like basically hired to be a response team. I cannot remember what the acronym is. We can do a whole thing on it though. But they're gonna give like citizens really good paid, like decently paid union jobs, similar to police officers, but they won't be armed. They'll be skilled at handling situations that officers maybe don't need to be handling. That someone with a gun doesn't need to handle, like mental health stuff, certain public safety or traffic things. And there are so many things we could list.
Or
them.
we could, this is my big pet peeve, right?
We could, yeah.
We could fund the building department. We could fund the DPW, because some of these issues that people call the cops for, a neighbor is being a real dick about not taking care of their trash.
Right.
So your only solution, really, realistically, is to call the police. That's literally it. Maybe other neighbors get involved first, because we don't have that. We require these systems to do it for us because everybody's afraid of getting sued.
Yeah, and I would say like always call your town clerk first or the health department about something like that. But people don't know.
We've been trained to call
people
the
don't
cops.
know.
And then the cops come and either exasperate the situation or fluster people because they can't do anything.
Right.
And like, I also agree, in some places, the cops, when they say, yeah, there's nothing we can do about that, I'm like, great,
right.
But that will still annoy that citizen, because they've been told, they've been propagandized that they should expect a result.
No,
and people don't have proper expectations either.
Well, right. So I think another thing that people can expect, other than like,
did I just apologize for a cop?
No, I don't know.
I didn't mean
I
to,
don't think
but there's some things I feel like, yeah, they want cops to literally prevent crime. That's an unreasonable expectation. You can, this is where I won't defend cops, but I'm like, the point of the job, if you think their job is to prevent crime, you've been lied to.
Right.
Because it's not possible. This isn't Minority Report. And if you start doing that kind of shit, at what point is it entrapment? And regardless, we don't want that. That's a bad thing. That's
right.
That's fascism. Irregardlessly. And there's nothing wrong with saying that. It's a word now, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, like I don't know. I think the other, I was about to say, like,
it's like whelmed and overwhelmed. They mean the same thing.
Well, yeah, like irregardless is just too good of a word, but I think people can.
It's a very Boston thing. Irregardlessly. Irregardlessly.
I'm referencing the SNL skits making fun of Boston, but yes, it's a Boston.
Wait, did they do that in that?
Oh yeah,
they talk about irregardless.
They'd be like, irregardless. It's like one of the skits.
Irregardless of whatever you got going on over there.
Yeah. It was like they would yell it. It was one of when Jimmy Fallon and Rachel Dratch would do their like Boston teenager skits. They're really funny.
And I hope people listening, we should probably wrap up soon. Totally. But I hope whoever ends up listening to us know this is our, getting to know us, and we'll be a little more focused in other episodes. But the main point of this was introduce ourselves, talk about how we feel about quote unquote civility, and classism and all that stuff. And remember, we're abolitionists, which means, maybe we should end with giving our definition of abolition. And the reality is, we're trying not harm reduction, end harm. We're trying to end the harm. And it doesn't necessarily mean pointing our fingers at everything all the time. And it doesn't necessarily mean we have to have the perfect plan to transition to. There's going to be mistakes. The point is, how can we stop harming those around us and the environment and all the things? Like, if you want to be a good Christian, if you happen to hate listen to us as a Christian and we're talking shit about Christians, if you want to be a good
LOL.
Christian, this is being a good Christian.
Yeah.
If you want to be a good environmentalist, environment includes people, and we have to address systems that hurt people. So we're abolitionists, and most people would think, oh, cops or prisons.
No,
We're kind
yeah.
of
Well, those are
abolitionists.
there, but
Oh
like
yeah,
they're
those
yeah,
are in there. Oh, they're in
those
there.
are in there, but like there's a lot, like you said, like new systems in general, new ideas, and
And
the harm
everything
and
goes back
preventing
down to
harm.
community. So we could be
Hmm.
talking about our issues here and talking about global issues, that apply to your local area, but it comes down to you organizing with people you can trust,
Yeah.
and not just on a rallying cry of hate and anger, and being, of course, I'm upset with some of the things the local police do, but I also try to um you got to find the joy, I guess,
Yeah.
and like we're trying to find ways to feed the community. Those are other projects we're doing, and we're in the early infancy of, right, but that alone feels good, and that's an abolitionist action. It's mutual aid, it's community building, and
And
you
those are all
know
things I think we'll talk about like moving forward. I think like you said, this was a get to know us. This was not only will we smoke weed, talk about bullshit and like weeding it out and like swear a lot, but we will give you resources and ways that have worked for us, and we will learn new ways as we work, and like we will share them with you, and we will share perspectives and
and we'll have, hopefully, on down the line, we'll have other people doing similar
yeah,
work like that we've met.
that we
there's
can talk
there's
to.
there's local journalists that we know. So right as we wrap up, do you want to do our definition of abolition, and then we'll
Well, yeah,
roll
I like to
credits?
use that quote that I shared with you before. And I like to reference Derica Purnell. And they wrote, "Abolition is an invitation into finding new answers to the problem of harm, and into building new ways to prevent harm in the first place." And if you're interested in abolition, you want to know more about that, that's from the book Becoming Abolitionists, Police Protest, and the Pursuit of Freedom. And I will put that on our website and suggest a number of other resources you can check out, if you're interested in just kind of learning more about what even abolition means. But it's really about preventing harm in the first place. And Spencer really touched on that a bunch of times too.
And for me, abolition, in addition to what Joanna said, was just more theoretical and a little more, um, you know, technical. For lack, I personally view it as dismantling any hierarchical structure that harms. So I personally want to abolish the Catholic Church.
Yeah, and I'm just using a quote from one abolitionist
Right.
too. So you're going to find
And I'm
many,
I'm more
many
of a
variations.
I'm
Like
more of a rambler, and other people are more technical, like
you're a
these
rambling
wonderful,
man.
but like these wonderful authors that write this stuff, and put things into, we need both. You can't be, too many people get too about the intellectual side, and too many people get anti-intellectual, and that's how we end up in a fascist, neo-fascist America. Is intellectualism is by some people overvalued and by other people despised.
We could do a whole episode on that too.
Right. And I think it's somewhere in between. Like, we need the smart philosophers and the people, like the thinkers, and the stuff that doesn't feel relevant, it doesn't feel tangible. That we still need people to think and do that. And then there needs to be people on the ground, or interpersonally being the glue.
Oh, totally. We all have our roles to play. That's
Right.
part of it.
Some people are leaders, some
Right.
people are
Builders,
doers,
doers. Exactly.
some people
Exactly.
are
Some
like
people tear it
myself.
down.
Some people will yell and scream. That's us. Like, we'll
Yeah.
yell and scream,
I will
and
tear it down.
just, that I don't want anybody to listen to this unless they're in the headspace to listen to it.
No,
And
same.
come do it when you want, and that's
Yes.
that way. It's on your terms, and you're in the headspace for it. If you're feeling overwhelmed by the news, come and listen to us. And
Yeah,
we may
because
not.
we are ending on a high note. Like it's about community care. It's about preventing harm. Like And there's hope. Like, we're here. We wouldn't be talking to all of you if we didn't have hope.
And we're not elitist. We're not above you watching the Kardashians, even though it's a capitalist
No.
hellscape. But it's if you need that to like decompress, great.
Fine, watch it, but then maybe
And watch
please
it when you're in this
do some
headspace
direct
to watch
action,
that.
too.
And when you're in the headspace to get mad about something or like laugh at something that's so broken, come listen to us.
Yeah, and thanks for being here.
Yeah, thank you, Joanna. That's always fun. And
It is.
welcome to the Weed Out. That's the first episode. So again, the Weed Out. What's the website, Joanna?
It's the weedout.com.
www.theweedout.com.
That's correct.
And you can find us on all the social medias. We are slow, but we
Yeah,
will
at
get
the
there.
Weed Out, we're there. So follow
we're
us
there.
on the Twitter, on the Facebooks, on the Instagrams. We're there on the interwebs.
Snapchat, but I don't know if we're gonna. I don't
Well,
know.
I don't know
We'll
what
figure- we don't know.
That one's
we don't.
hard.
We're millennials. No,
Yeah.
what elder
And
millennials?
I'm an elder millennial. Yeah, you
Yeah,
might
so
be
like,
too, but oof,
I'm on
up
the
there.
cusp. But
Yeah.
like, yeah, I'm a little out of date on the like. I got the TikToks. I understand the
Right.
TikToks.
I can do.
I'm
the
not good at it, but I understand it. I'm
I can
not
do
totally
like
out of
3 or
loop.
4 of them. So yeah,
And
we're
I've-
out there. We'll connect with you.
And I've personally outgrown Facebook long ago because that's only where boomers live.
That's hard.
Boomers live and die, and not not boomers in general, just the worst kind of boomers.
That's true.
It's not the fun boomers who are
No.
like got fun stories. It's the
It's the
fucking
scary
nut
ones.
jobs, nut jobs with too much lead in their water or whatever.
But yes, go to the weedout.com and
that's not fun. That's not fact checked by science. I just,
No,
I
it's
just
not,
like
it's not.
saying that. We don't know if that's true about the lead, but it's something to think about, everybody. And yeah, so the weedout.com.
Go there. And then you
we'll
can
definitely be
find-
active on Twitter and
especially Twitter, probably Instagram. Twitter the most, I'm guessing, to start. And then what will be everywhere. You'll find
right.
us.
And we're gonna also drop hints of other podcasts or other sources we like to get our information from.
Totally.
I'm more of a podcast listener than Joanna, but
yeah.
But she also has other mediums, like, she's more into literature than I am, so she has some great she'll have some great references for us every week or every episode, whatever we decide. We're still figuring it out. And I'll always have some memeable because I have the short attention span of the two. And anyways, thanks for listening to us for the first time, and we
thanks.
will be back at it. All right. Good afternoon. Good night.
Bye.